Hi everyone. Welcome to this presentation on the new marriage forms and certificates, effective from the 1st of September 2021. My name is Lisa Greenfield. I'm a Commonwealth Registered Marriage Celebrant and teacher in celebrancy at the Gordon TAFE. We've made this webinar for you to introduce the new forms and give you confidence in starting to use them. We hope you find this webinar helpful. Let me just get the presentation for you. As we begin our session, I wish to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land upon which we meet today. The Gordon is built upon Wadawurrung land, and I am in Woiwurrung country. People who for thousands of years have understood the power of ceremony and celebrated rites of passage. I pay my respects to the ancestors and elders past, present and emerging of the peoples of the Kulin Nation, and I extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. This presentation will take about 20 minutes. We'll cover the following topics: what's changing, what's not changing and why. We'll also show you where to download information. There's fact sheets and guidelines available. And we'll then take you on a familiarisation of the new Notice of Intended Marriage, the Declaration of No Legal Impediment to Marriage, and the new Official Certificate of Marriage. We'll wrap up at the end with a summary of what we've covered. By now that you'll have heard that some of the marriage forms are changing. The new forms are in effect from the 1st of September. The forms that are changing are the Notice of Intended Marriage, the Declarations of No Legal Impediment to Marriage, and the Official Certificates of Marriage, which there are 2. We sometimes refer to that as the OCM, and we sometimes refer to the Notice of Intended Marriage as the NOIM. What's not changing is the Couples Certificate, Form 15, which we sometimes call the Presentation Certificate. And the record of use for Form 15 also remains the same. The other documentation you might use from time to time, such as a statutory declaration or an interpreter's certificate, are not changing. And there are no changes to the ceremony, the monatum and the vows. If you have a current active notice of intended marriage completed prior to the 1st of September, you can still use that NOIM, as it's valid for 18 months from the date you accepted it. All new notices, however, must be received on the new form. So why are the forms changing? There's been extensive consultation on the changes required. There was feedback from us, marriage celebrants, and feedback was also sought from government departments such as the Australian Bureau of Statistics. As you know, the ABS used the Notice of Intended Marriage to collect marriage data. The ABS was consulted as to what information they needed for their statistics, and as a result, the questions not required were removed. More about that later. The forms also needed to be modernised to reflect contemporary marrying couples and family relationships. For example, same-sex parents may not necessarily identify as mother and father. We'll show you what the wording has changed to. The Marriage Law and Celebrant section of the Attorney General's Department has produced documents to assist. There's a fact sheet explaining the changes, a tip sheet for completing the NOIM, and updated guidelines on the Marriage Act, version September 2021. Part 4 of the guidelines on the Marriage Act explains the NOIM in detail. And the NOIM is also mentioned in Part 5, where there's information on how to transfer the NOIM to another celebrant if you're unable to conduct the ceremony. All of these resources are available on the website. The link will take you to the website page. Let's do that now. Here you'll find the page in the Attorney General's website called Marriage. You can either use the search bar here when you're looking for something, or you can go to the links from the front page and look for what you're looking for down here. There's further links on the left as well. So 2 ways to get the information you need. But in this section titled Marriage, you have this one here, Resources for Marriage Celebrants. It's in this part that you're going to find everything you need for the new forms, the information and the NOIM itself. The new Notice of Intended Marriage looks quite different to the previous version. Rest assured, it's quite easy to use. This picture shows the top of page 1, the banner. I'll show you the full document soon. But just for now, I'll give you a snapshot of the changes of what you're about to see. These are the main differences. It's now 5 pages long. It was previously 4 pages. The couple is referred to as person 1 and person 2, and identifying gender is optional. Conjugal status is now 4 checkboxes. You don't need to write the conjugal status in full. There's also an additional checkbox, divorce pending, and more about that later. Mother and father have become parent 1 and parent 2. And when the couple signs the NOIM, they're also attesting that they've read the privacy notes, as well as the information supplied being true and correct. The form has clearer sections. There's a section to be completed before and after the ceremony. And the photo ID part, identity confirmed, has been simplified. There's now a section on the shortening of time. It's clearer and easier to use than the section that was in the previous version. And they've also included a transfer of notice section in case you can't actually conduct the ceremony and you need to transfer it to another celebrant. There is now a spot where you can fill in the details there. Those points there not required. That's what I mentioned earlier about the Australian Bureau of Statistics. So the questions that are not required have now been removed. And they are the total of period of residence in Australia if the person was born overseas, information about the previous marriages, the children of the marriage, the number of marriages in the years. You still do need to check the divorce certificate, so that information remains, but information on the marriage data of the previous marriages is no longer required. And there's no option now on the form to add deceased. You'll see on the form it says if parents unknown, add unknown, but the previous version said if deceased, add deceased, which no longer appears. So let's have a look at the NOIM. The link in the presentation took us straight to this page, Notice of Intended Marriage. As you can see, there's still instructions at the top, as there have been before, and you have the option, as you did before, of typing in the required information. It is a writable PDF, or if you want to print and write it by hand, you use block letters. Same deal as previous. If you're typing, you can use upper and lowercase, but if it's handwritten, it must be all in uppercase. There's also a point to please read the explanation in the instructions for completing this form, particularly items 7 and 8, which we'll have a look at. Here's the privacy notice. This is what happens to the people's information, basically. Again, it's very similar to the previous, but as I mentioned just a moment ago, when the person signs this time, they have to actually sign that they have read the privacy notices as well. There's the instructions on completing the form, instructions on specific items as it says down here. Okay, let's have a look at the actual form itself. So you've still got the celebrant use. We had that box previously, but it just looks a little bit different now. Time, date, location of the ceremony. It's now called booking information. And here, the use only by BDM. So if you see again, it's now person 1, person 2. How they describe themselves, partner, bride or groom, is entirely up to them. Family name used to be called surname, so that's been modernised. Given names in the old days was called Christian names, so that's also been modernised. Gender, as it says, is optional. And again, that's absolutely how the person wants to identify. Occupation, address as previous, and now conjugal status, as I mentioned, is not written in full anymore. It's basically a checkbox. So if you are completing it online, if you just click in there, it comes up as an X. Or again, you can complete by hand. And as we said, you've got the option now of divorce pending, which wasn't on the previous NOIM. So that means that a person can complete the notice of intended marriage before their divorces come through. But of course, you must check their divorce documents before they can sign the declarations and before you conduct the ceremony. Birthplace, date of birth, and again, other parties related as previous. And as it says here, you've still got the person's parents' details, but we're referring to them as parent 1 and parent 2. It's also showing, if applicable, parent 2, and that it allows for single parent families. These are this is the information that should be read to the couple before they sign. And here's the extra line here. I have read the form's privacy notices and instructions for completion and hereby give my notice of intended marriage. So they need to read all of the document as well as just completing the form itself. Again, we witness it, authorised witness, that would be us, for instance, signature as before. This is the area where it's highlighted now that the celebrant completes before the ceremony. So it's really clear what has to be done beforehand. Our name, date received. Evidence of date and place of birth. So we have everything listed there as a possibility. And then we put the document number in. Identity confirmed now is the photo ID. So that means yes, confirmed. And what type of ID is it? I could write in their driver's license, or I could write student card, or I could write proof of age card. Because there's so many different forms of photo ID now, we just actually enter in what it is. So type of ID, say driver's license, and document number, the driver's license number, for instance. State and territory or country of issue goes there as well. Date last marriage ended, if applicable. So if they're never validly married, you wouldn't fill that in. And then if so, how did it end? Death, divorce, or nullity? Again, death certificate number or court location. So that's very similar to the previous. Here we check that we've given them the happily ever before and after brochure. And if the party is under 18 years of age, whether we've seen the consents and the court approval. This is clearer too. Marriage on late notice, shortening of time. So we either click not applicable, or it goes to births, deaths and marriages for the approval or prescribed authority, as it says here. And then they would tick granted. And this section is to be completed after. So that's nice and clear now what needs to be done afterwards. Before, we used to just look for the past tense. So date marriage solemnised at is its location, suburb or town, city, state or territory, and postcode. So we want the full location there. Ceremony used, it might be religious or it might be a civil ceremony according to the Marriage Act 1961. We sign it, we put our number in, and this is the section, if we need to transfer it to another celebrant if we're unable to complete the ceremony ourselves. I should say conduct the ceremony ourselves. Okay, so that's a quick trip around the notice of intended marriage. Let me go back to where we were. I'll just also show you very quickly this one, tips for completing the notice of intended marriage. because this is quite a handy little document. So I've clicked on the link and that's taken me back to the AG's website. And we click on this one here. And what it's got is the notice of intended marriage on the left here, as we've just been through. And it's got all the instructions on the right-hand side. So in addition to the instructions on the form, this is some tips for us to complete. And I think it would be a good idea to print this one out or have it bookmarked in your browser, your internet browser, so that you can refer to this until you're comfortable with the new form. Okay. So the declarations of no legal impediment to marriage. As you know, they're completed after the notice of intended marriage and before the wedding. The wedding cannot take place unless the couples have made their declarations, signed and witnessed by the celebrant conducting the ceremony. The declarations of no legal impediment to marriage help us, celebrants, satisfy ourselves that the marriage will not be invalid as per Section 23B of the Marriage Act 1961. This version is easy to complete as the conjugal status is no longer required to be written in full. Again, there's the tick boxes here too. And the changes are consistent with the new NOIM. No questions in the declaration here in the new version have been removed or substantively changed. Just like the previous version of the form, the declarations must be printed on the reverse side of the official certificate of marriage, and the double-sided document is forwarded to the prescribed authority. Births, deaths and marriages in the state or territory where the ceremony took place within 14 days after the ceremony. So let's have a look at the form. So here's the new declaration of no legal impediment to marriage. As you can see, the layout is very similar to the layout of the new notice of intended marriage. So you've got person 1 and person 2. You've got the family name, again, occupation, address, etc. And here's what they're declaring. They're declaring that I've never been validly married, I am widowed, or I am divorced. So again, you've got the tick boxes. We just need to put a cross in the box. Marriageable age is also now a tick box. And as it's got here, marriageable age, I am 18 years or older, go to question 3. So if we check that one, we go straight to question 3, which is down here. It's only if they're not yet 18 that we complete this section down here. And this is the declaration. I believe there's no legal impediment to my marriage because, and you'll be familiar with these words, neither of us are married to another person, neither of us are in a prohibited relationship, both of us are of marriageable age, and there's no other circumstance that we believe would be a legal impediment. Signature of each person. What's different here is if the people are actually signing this together, if you've got the couple with you both together, you can complete this section here as a celebrant. So declared on, at, you're familiar again with those terms, before me, signature and number. You only need to complete this side for person 2, for instance, if they're being witnessed separately. So that's a good saving of time there. Just have to do that once. Let's have a look at the official certificate of marriage. Again, we've pasted the banner there just so you can see what it looks like. And like the declarations, the official certificates of marriage have been updated to be consistent with the changes in the notice of intended marriage. Nothing's different in the way we manage it. So the first OCM, official certificate of marriage, is given to the prescribed authority, births, deaths and marriages. And the second one is our copy, the celebrant's copy. So the first OCM will have the declarations printed on the back, and the second one is blank on the back, as you know. It can be downloaded as a separate PDF or a combined PDF with the declarations, again, from the Attorney General's Department, as you can see the link there to the website. So let's have a look at the form. And here's the new official certificate of marriage. Date marriage solemnised, at, and ceremony used. Very similar to what we just looked at a moment ago. Details of parties to the marriage, person one and person two, again, very similar to the way the notice of intended marriage is laid out. And you've got your conjugal status there as well, the check boxes as we've seen before. Birthplace, date of birth, and you've got parents' names as well. Current name and birth name are listed here. So another new thing for these forms. Signatures of parties to the marriage, so that's the couple. And then you've got the witnesses, so as we've had them before there. And down the bottom, completed by the authorised celebrant after the wedding, I certify that on the date and place specified above, I duly solemnise this marriage. So that's done after the ceremony. Name, signature, and our authorisation number. Okay. So that was a quick trip around the forms. Let's now summarise what we've talked about. So the notice of intended marriage has been redesigned. It's simpler to use. And then as a result of that, the official certificate of marriage has been redesigned to align with the notice of intended marriage. So it looks very similar. And of course, so have the declarations. So it all looks quite consistent now. We've now got the tick boxes or check boxes, as we call them, included in all the documents. So we no longer have to write out the conjugal status in full. We can tick those boxes. Conjugal status also now includes divorce pending. So it was something that some celebrants were using anyway, but now it's included as a conjugal status. Questions not required in the notice of intended marriage have been removed. How people identify is a bit different. And again, that's optional too when we talked about the gender part there. All requirements regarding the forms, calendar month, for instance, for the notice, submitting to BDM, checking the documents, all of our obligations being a celebrant remain the same. It's just the layout that is different now. The old notices of intended marriage, just as a reminder, prior to the 1st of September 2021 are valid for the period of 18 months from the time they're received. But if you are meeting with a couple after the 1st of September, then you must use the new forms. All the new declarations and official certificates of marriage must be used from the 1st of September. And the information on the Attorney General's website includes a fact sheet on the changes, tips for completing the notice, and don't forget the guidelines on the Marriage Act 1961 for authorised celebrants is now available from a new version of September 2021, and that has got all the information you need in it to complete the NOIM and other information that you need to do your job as a marriage celebrant. So all you need to do now is go and make some beautiful memories for couples, create your wonderful ceremonies, and give them a day that they'll treasure for life. Thank you.